Back in the 1970s, a young, brash San Francisco Bay Area man in search of a direction in life took the advice given to him by a couple of fellows he met at a convention, and he moved to Las Vegas to become a news reporter. That didn't happen right off the bat, and for a brief period he worked as a taxi driver, but one who knew nothing of the lay of the land as a good taxi driver would. He eventually landed a job at the local CBS affiliate station KLAS, and basically covered what the other more tenured reporters didn't want to be bothered with. This included looking into mob corruption in and around Las Vegas and within the casinos and hotels in both Las Vegas and Sparks, Nevada. He had gotten several segments aired, and he began to make a name for himself in the Las Vegas television arena. That name was George Knapp. In the late 80s Learjet aviation era, John Lear came into the station to suggest a story for them to cover that involved a worker at a secret government research facility known as S4 out in the Nevada desert that was part of a larger facility called Dreamland, or Area 51. The lead night anchor wasn't interested in the story at all, and the ever-vigilant Knapp, who was eavesdropping on the conversation, approached Lear as he was leaving the station, having been turned down by the main news anchor man. George sat with Lear for quite some time as he explained a story that sounded too far-fetched to be true. This story was about a man who was doing reverse engineering on wrecked and captured spacecraft out at the S4 facility. That man was Bob Lazar, and his aired broadcast on KLAS by George Knapp forever altered George's life and his overall direction as a broadcast journalist. He became the UFO guy, even though the majority of his investigative journalism was still focused on the activities of the mob in and around Las Vegas and Nevada's gambling world. He produced periodic investigative stories over several decades and exposed unknown areas of the government that functioned behind a veil of secrecy and black budget projects. He became good friends with Senator Harry Reid, who sponsored funding to further investigate strange goings-ons in the skies above us all, and did so in conjunction with the Bigelow Corporation. He traveled to the USSR and obtained interviews and documents surrounding the Russians and their involvement in UFO activities and investigations of reported incidents. George Knapp's career has spanned many decades, and his groundbreaking stories have captivated audiences around the globe. This video is a bit of a homage to the great investigative journalist George Knapp, the OG of the UFO investigation world.
May 15th, 1989, seems like only yesterday. Not really. I was the co-anchor of the 5 o'clock news with Paula Francis, and our newscast back then featured a nightly interview segment. The guest we had scheduled for that day bailed on us at the last minute, so I placed a call to famed aviator John Lear because he'd been telling me he knew someone who'd been hired to work at an ultra-secret military base near Groom Lake. We had no idea the interview would still be of interest 30 years later.
There's really no way I can prove it without revealing my identity and getting myself into more trouble than I have already.
Exactly what's going on up there?
Well, there's several, actually 9 flying saucers, flying discs, that are out there of extraterrestrial origin, and they're basically being dismantled. Some are, well, in various stages of completion, built from other parts, and they're being test flown and basically just analyzed.
You say there's 9 saucers. How are those tests going?
As far as what?
As far as whether they're successful and that sort of thing.
Oh, well, some of them are 100% intact and operate perfectly. The other ones are being taken apart. I was involved mainly in propulsion and the power source. You know, basically, as far as I can remember, there are about half of them do operate, and the other half are just been torn down, basically to analyze the components to them.
Where did we get these saucers? How did they come into the hands of the government?
I haven't the slightest idea, and you have to understand the information is very compartmentalized.
The interview had been set up at the last minute. Dennis, whose real name is Bob Lazar, met our news unit in front of the home of John Lear, put on a microphone, then sent shockwaves through UFO circles. Lazar recalls what was going through his mind at the time.
It was a very frightening moment. It was certainly not a comfortable thing to do.
Within days, the story of the Dennis interview had traveled around the world. Busloads of the saucer curious descended on the outskirts of Area 51. The little town of Rachel became a hub of ET enthusiasm, and the search was on for the true identity of the man in the shadows.
Up until the very moment, I was wondering whether or not this was a good thing to do. And to be honest, I'm still not sure it was a good idea.
When Lazar had told us he was concerned about getting into more trouble than he was already in, he was referring to this.
Here's the night John Lear saw his first flying disc.
2 months before the Dennis interview, Lazar began taking a few friends out to the desert on Wednesday nights. They focused their attention not on Groom Lake, but in the direction of Papoose Lake, which is where Lazar said he worked, a facility he called S4. And sure enough, on each of 3 outings, the groups witnessed a glowing disc rise above Papoose, even though officially there has never been a base or facility there. How did he know? 3 decades later, the public is still fascinated with the story Lazar unleashed.
I was, very worried at the time about repercussions, and of course had no idea that we would be talking about this 30 years down the road.
My former co-anchor, Paula Francis, sent a note this morning. She remembers that day and that interview. She said, quote, "I was skeptical of Dennis, but as we soon learned, much of what he told us about Area 51 turned out to be true. Quite a bit of new information has surfaced in recent months about Lazar, about Pentagon UFO programs. Tonight at 6, the social changes that interview set into motion. And then at 11, how Lazar's story stacks up against the recent Pentagon UFO videos. We have links to other material on our website. Back to you.
We here all want to thank Mr. Knapp for all the great reporting he has done over the years, and his recent work in collaboration with Jeremy Corbell seems to indicate that his work on this topic is far from over, and we look forward to each and every account he puts out. Folks, please take a moment to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. This helps us a great deal as we strive to create engaging content for our viewers, and be sure to hit the notification bell so that you're notified when new content is released.